The story begins with Yeon Si-yoon, a high school student with an extraordinary talent for solving complicated mathematical equations entirely in his mind. This remarkable ability helps him navigate various activities in his daily life, from running and playing to even fighting. However, this brilliance comes at a cost. Si-yoon lives an isolated life with no social connections. He spends all his time studying and rarely speaks to anyone. Rumors spread at school that he has never smiled in his life. His distant and reserved nature makes him seem strange to others. His classmates ostracize him, going as far as to call him a creep. Yet none of this bothers Si-yoon, as his sole focus is on excelling in his exams. In class, Si-yoon receives the gold prize for a math competition, which he accepts without much emotion or fanfare. Meanwhile, Yongbin, the class bully, receives the bronze prize. Annoyed and envious, Yongbin decides to take out his frustrations on Si-yoon. He deliberately hits Si-yoon with a slipper, pretending it was an accident. Despite the humiliation, Si-yoon doesn't fight back. He simply tells Yongbin not to do it again. Yongbin takes this as a challenge and prepares to attack Si-yoon further. However, before he can do anything, a group of senior boys bursts into the classroom. The seniors are angry and are searching for someone named An Soo-ho, accusing him of teasing one of their female friends. From the back of the room, a boy who has been quietly sleeping wakes up. This is An Soo-ho. He calmly introduces himself and tries to talk his way out of trouble. The seniors, though, are not willing to listen. They decide to attack him. The entire class watches, filled with fear, expecting Soo-ho to be overpowered. But to everyone's surprise, Soo-ho fights back and defeats the seniors with ease, despite being outnumbered. His strength and skill leave the class in shock. An Soo-ho defeats the older boys without breaking a sweat, leaving the entire class amazed by his martial arts skills. However, Si-yoon seems uninterested and just wants the commotion to end so he can focus on his studies. The next day, Yongbin and his gang of bullies continue to target Si-yoon. This time, they hide his books and act as though they know nothing about it. Later, a frustrated Si-yoon confronts them in the storeroom, calmly asking them to stop their behavior. Unfortunately, this proves to be a mistake. The bullies surround Si-yoon and beat him up, humiliating him in front of the class. Despite the physical abuse, Si-yoon remains unmoved and doesn't show any reaction, which only irritates the bullies further. They realize that no matter how hard they try to provoke him, Si-yoon refuses to give them the satisfaction of breaking down. Frustrated, Yongbin comes up with a new plan. Knowing that Si-yoon values his grades above all else, he decides to sabotage his exams. That night, the bullies visit a nightclub and purchase narcotics from a local dealer. Among their purchases, Yongbin acquires a packet of fentanyl patches, a dangerous and illegal substance. When applied to the neck, these patches cause severe side effects like hallucinations and vomiting. The following day, a new student joins the class. His name is Beom-seok, a quiet and reserved boy. He is the son of a wealthy minister and seems nervous around his new classmates. Yongbin quickly identifies him as a potential target for bullying. After some digging, he learns that Beom-seok transferred schools because he was severely bullied at his previous one. Yongbin uses the information about Beom-seok's past to blackmail him into helping with a plan. Since exams are about to start in an hour, Yongbin orders Beom-seok to place the fentanyl patch on Si-yoon's neck. Beom-seok, feeling trapped and scared, agrees to do as he is told. When the exam begins, Beom-seok finds an opportunity. He slaps Si-yoon lightly on the back, pretending it is an innocent gesture, and cleverly sticks the narcotic patch on his neck. Si-yoon becomes annoyed at the disturbance, but Beom-seok makes up an excuse, saying he was just brushing away a fly. Soon after, Si-yoon begins to feel dizzy. His condition worsens, and he rushes to the bathroom, where he vomits continuously. By the time he recovers enough to return to the exam hall, the exam is already over. Si-yoon realizes that he is going to fail for the first time in his life. Overcome with frustration and anger, he grabs a pen and heads towards the bullies, determined to confront them. As Si-yoon approaches the group, time seems to slow down in his mind. Using his brilliant brain, he calculates every move. First, he picks up a thick book and strikes Yongbin directly in the face with it. One of the nearby bullies tries to fight back, but Si-yoon reacts quickly, stabbing the bully's hand with his pen. Next, Si-yoon grabs a curtain and uses it to cover Yongbin's face. He then repeatedly hits Yongbin's head with the heavy book. The punishment is so brutal that all the students can just watch in fear. Just before Si-yoon can inflict fatal harm on Yongbin, An Soo-ho steps in and stops him. The situation calms down, but Yongbin is left severely injured and is taken to the hospital. At the hospital, Yongbin's mother stays by his side. She believes that her son has been bullied and is the victim in the situation. While Yongbin recovers, Siyun visits the hospital along with the school principal to issue an apology for his actions. However, Yongbin's mother is furious. She demands that Siyun be expelled, accusing him of being a dangerous boy who could harm other students. Siyun remains calm and pulls out the narcotic patch that Yongbin and his gang had used on him. He explains the situation, showing that the patch was placed on his neck to sabotage his exam. The principal is shocked to learn that one of her students is involved with illegal substances. After hearing the explanation and seeing the evidence, she does not punish Siyun. Instead, she turns her anger toward Yongbin, berating him for his behavior. The next day, when Siyun enters the classroom, everything feels different. All the students now treat him with respect, and even the bullies are visibly scared of him. Beom-seok, feeling guilty for his actions, tries to apologize, but Siyun doesn't acknowledge him and walks away without a word. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Yongbin is visited by his gangster cousin, Seok-dae. Humiliated by what has happened, Yongbin becomes determined to take revenge. He gives his cousin a large amount of money and asks him to punish Siyun. A few days later, Yongbin recovers fully and puts his plan into action. He and the gangsters wait at the school entrance for Siyun. When the math genius arrives, Seok-dae begins by slapping him across the face. Then, they take Siyun to a quieter location, planning to beat him up. Beom-seok notices what is happening and becomes worried. He realizes that the only person capable of helping Siyun is An Suho. He finds Suho sleeping and initially unwilling to get involved in someone else's problems. However, when Beom-seok promises to pay him $500, Suho agrees to help. The two hop onto Suho's scooter and quickly start searching for Siyun, hoping to reach him before it's too late. Elsewhere, Siyun is enduring a beating from Yongbin and the gangsters. He tries to use his mathematical skills to defend himself and fight back, but the odds are against him. Yongbin kicks him in the head multiple times, and the situation seems dire. Just as things are about to get worse, An Suho arrives dramatically, delivering a flying karate kick to interrupt the fight. Suho immediately engages in a one-on-one brawl with Seok-dae, while the remaining gangsters turn their attention back to Siyun. Despite his timid nature, Beom-seok gathers his courage and joins the fight to help his classmates. Together, the group manages to overcome their attackers. Eventually, they prevail, leaving Yongbin and Seok-dae humiliated and defeated. To celebrate their victory, An Suho takes Siyun and Beom-seok to the restaurant where he works part-time. They enjoy a hearty meal and spend time bonding, something new for all of them. For Siyun, who has always been an introvert, this is the first time he has dinner with others. Elsewhere, Seok-dae is summoned by his boss, Gil-soo, a feared and powerful gangster. Gil-soo is furious about Seok-dae's defeat at the hands of schoolboys. To make an example of him, Gil-soo punishes Seok-dae so harshly that he breaks his arm. Gil-soo also vows to take revenge on those who humiliated his gang. Meanwhile, Siyun is at a department store buying some supplies. At the same time, one of Seok-dae's gang members, a young woman, is caught shoplifting. She steals a lipstick by biting off the top and hiding it in her bag. When another shopper notices her suspicious actions, the woman panics and rushes to Siyun. Pretending to know him, she clings to him as if they are friends. Siyun, confused and unsure how to respond, decides to help her avoid trouble by escorting her out of the store. Outside, it is raining, and the woman does not have an umbrella. Feeling obliged, Siyun offers to walk her home. On the way, they stop at a small restaurant for lunch. During the meal, the woman finally introduces herself as Young Yi. She explains that she is an orphan living with Seok-dae and other gang members. With no family or financial support, she started working for the notorious gangster Gil-soo to survive. Young Yi tries to learn more about Siyun, but he remains quiet, unwilling to share much about himself. Before leaving, she saves her phone number in Siyun's mobile as a way to keep in touch. The next day, Yongbin returns to school after his series of humiliations. He goes straight to Siyun, Beom-seok, and Suho. This time, he looks troubled. Yongbin reveals that he is in serious trouble because of the narcotics found on him. He is now facing juvenile detention, and the only way to avoid it is if Siyun and Beom-seok testify to clear his name. To prove that he is telling the truth, Yongbin falls to his knees and begins crying, showing genuine fear and desperation. Seeing his emotional state, Siyun, Beom-seok, and Suho reluctantly agree to help him. Yongbin then leads them to a parking lot where Gil-soo and his gang are waiting. Young Yi is also there, standing quietly on the side. Gil-soo approaches the boys with a menacing presence and demands $15,000 as compensation for the injuries his men suffered during their previous encounter. He warns them that if they fail to pay within 3 days, their families will face the consequences. To make his threats clear, Gil-soo uses a knife to make a small cut on Suho's face as a demonstration of what might happen if they refuse. From that moment, the boys find themselves under constant surveillance. Gang members follow them wherever they go, ensuring they cannot leave the city. Among the three, Beom-seok is the most anxious. He is terrified that his father, a strict and influential figure, will discover his involvement in the situation. As the deadline approaches, Beom-seok, desperate for a solution, sneaks into his father's room and steals an expensive watch. He plans to sell it to help gather the money. Meanwhile, Si-yoon, determined to find another way out, decides to involve the police. However, before contacting them, he wants to gather solid evidence against Gil-soo and his illegal activities. Si-yoon reaches out to Young Yi, arranging to meet her at a restaurant. During their conversation, Young Yi confesses that she despises Gil-soo as much as they do. She reveals that she is tired of his cruel treatment, especially towards teenagers like her who have no choice but to work for him. Eager to bring Gil-soo down, Young Yi shares critical information about his illegal operations. She explains that Gil-soo runs an illicit betting app. At first, the app makes people believe they are winning by rewarding small amounts of money, but as users start betting larger sums, they begin to lose and their money disappears. In this way, his illegal betting app traps hundreds of students in debt. Gil-soo keeps track of everyone who owes money and initially offers them loans, making it seem like a solution. However, when they fail to repay, he forces them to join his gang and participate in illegal activities to settle their debts. The next morning, Si-yoon, Beom-seok, and Suho meet in their classroom to discuss their plan. Beom-seok has managed to gather the $15,000, but Si-yoon and Suho quickly tell him that the money is no longer necessary. Instead, Si-yoon shares the detailed information he has gathered about Gil-soo's illegal operations, including the betting app and its manipulative schemes. Si-yoon's plan is risky but straightforward. They need to gain access to Gil-soo's place, call the police from inside, and catch him in the act. The group agrees that this is the best way to bring down the dangerous gangster, and as they leave the classroom, they see Gil-soo's gang waiting for them outside. Understanding the danger involved, Suho decides to handle the situation alone. He steps forward confidently and approaches Gil-soo directly. Suho brings up the illegal gambling app, claiming that the system behind it is flawed and can be exploited. He explains the process in detail, catching Gil-soo off guard. The gangster is both surprised and intrigued by Suho's knowledge. Finally, Suho proposes a meeting at Gil-soo's place to discuss how they can improve the app's operation and fix its weaknesses. Intrigued by the suggestion and sensing an opportunity, Gil-soo agrees and asks Suho to get into his car. After Suho leaves with Gil-soo, Beom-seok, overwhelmed by fear, decides to leave as well. He takes a cab, worried that their friend might end up in serious trouble. At the gangster's hideout, Suho secretly sends the location to his friends using his smartwatch. Unfortunately, the gangsters soon discover his actions. They brutally beat him, leaving him severely injured. Shortly after, Beom-seok arrives at the hideout, carrying the cash he had collected. Desperate to save Suho, he offers the money to the gangsters. However, they are suspicious and quickly apprehend him as well. Gil-soo and his men, now aware that the police might be coming, pack up their belongings and flee the hideout just moments before Si-yoon arrives with the authorities. Meanwhile, Gil-soo becomes furious about the boys' attempts to outsmart him. He calls Seok-dae and angrily blames him for the situation. He orders Seok-dae to come to a new location immediately. Seok-dae, knowing that he will likely face punishment, decides to go alone. However, Young Yi insists on accompanying him. Reluctantly, he agrees to let her come along. A little later, Si-yeon contacts Young Yi, asking if she knows where Gil-soo might have taken his friends. Understanding the urgency, Young Yi sends her live location to Si-yeon, urging him to bring the police as soon as possible. At the new location, an abandoned amusement park, Gil-soo and his gang prepare to punish Suho and Beom-seok for their betrayal. The two boys are tied up, and the gangsters are planning to execute them. As the situation grows increasingly tense, Seok-dae arrives with Young Yi. Seeing the girl, Gil-soo becomes enraged that Seok-dae disobeyed his orders by bringing her along. Without hesitation, Gil-soo begins beating Seok-dae with a metal bar to make an example of him. But this time, Seok-dae does something unexpected. He fights back against his ruthless boss. Seok-dae, tired of the years of abuse and punishment he has endured under Gil-soo, has finally decided to take a stand. Determined to fight back, he confronts his boss. Surprisingly, the other gangsters do not intervene. Watching as the two engage in a fierce professional fight, the battle goes back and forth, with both men showing skill and determination. However, Gil-soo's experience eventually gives him the upper hand, and he manages to overpower Seok-dae. After subduing him, Gil-soo turns his attention to Young Yi and begins choking her. Just then, police sirens are heard in the distance, causing panic among the gangsters. Fearing capture, they quickly scatter and flee the scene. As soon as they are gone, Si-yoon arrives, rushing to his friend's aid. He unties Soo-ho and Beom-seok, ensuring they are safe. However, before they can leave, Gil-soo and his gang return, holding Si-yoon's mobile phone. It turns out the police sirens were fake, merely an audio clip played from the phone to create a distraction. With their escape blocked, another fight breaks out. Despite his injuries, Soo-ho bravely takes down several gangsters. Si-yeon, using his intelligence and quick thinking, manages to outsmart and subdue a few as well. Just as the situation escalates further, the real police arrive at the scene. This time, the gangsters, including Gil-soo, are arrested. In the chaos, Young Yi manages to escape unnoticed. Later, Si-yeon and Beom-seok are summoned to the police station to give their statements about the events. Once they finish, Beom-seok's personal lawyer meets them with some good news. He informs them that their involvement in the case will be erased, ensuring that they face no consequences. Hearing this, Si-yeon feels a sense of relief, knowing he can now return to his studies without any further distractions. In the final scene, Si-yeon and Young Yi visit Soo-ho in the hospital. Although Soo-ho has a few broken bones from the fight, his cheerful and joking nature remains intact. Watching his friend's upbeat spirit, Si-yeon feels something he hasn't experienced in years: genuine happiness. For the first time, he smiles, shocking everyone in the room. The day after helping to get Gil-soo arrested, Si-yeon, Soo-ho, and Beom-seok become the center of attention at school. Many of their classmates, who had been trapped in debt because of the gangster, thank them for their bravery. The incident not only earns them admiration but also strengthens their bond as friends. They decide to celebrate by going out on the weekend to try a new restaurant. Soo-ho suggests inviting Young Yi to join them, and the others agree. However, Beom-seok feels slightly uneasy. Unlike Si-yeon and Soo-ho, he is not as close to Young Yi and secretly wishes it were just the three of them. Later at home, while scrolling through Soo-ho's Instagram, Beom-seok notices that Soo-ho follows Young Yi but not him. This discovery hurts his feelings, making him believe that Young Yi is becoming more important to his friends than he is. On the weekend outing, Beom-seok's insecurities grow. Throughout the day, Soo-ho and Young Yi seem to ignore him, often walking ahead without waiting for him. Beom-seok feels like an outsider in his own group. By the time they reach a karaoke bar in the evening, he feels completely left out, even by Si-yeon. At one point, Beom-seok steps outside to get a drink. As he walks, he spots some of his old bullies from his previous school. Fear grips him, and he quickly runs away, finding a room to hide in. Once the bullies lose track of him, Beom-seok returns to the karaoke bar, only to find Young Yi talking to someone on his phone. When he realizes that she has answered a call from his bullies, Beom-seok becomes furious and yells at her, shocking everyone. The group doesn't understand his reaction, but before they can ask questions, the bullies arrive at the karaoke bar looking for Beom-seok. However, when the bullies notice that Beom-seok is with Si-yeon and Soo-ho, they decide to leave without causing any trouble. Beom-seok, ashamed to admit that he was bullied, dismisses his friend's questions about the men who had come looking for him. He avoids explaining the situation, keeping his struggles to himself. The following morning at school, Beom-seok shows signs of growing frustration. When a classmate speaks too loudly, Beom-seok yells at him. The situation escalates when the classmate talks back, and Beom-seok begins to intimidate and terrorize him. Soo-ho intervenes, dragging Beom-seok away and stopping the altercation. Si-yeon and Soo-ho try to ask Beom-seok what is bothering him, but he refuses to talk and brushes off their concerns. Over the next few days, Beom-seok stops coming to school entirely, worrying his friends. One afternoon, Si-yeon and Soo-ho decide to visit his home to check on him. When they arrive, they are surprised by the size of his luxurious apartment, realizing that the rumors about Beom-seok being wealthy were true. Inside, Soo-ho notices a family photo on the wall and compliments it. However, Beom-seok coldly remarks that he does not feel like part of the family. He reveals that his father had adopted him after entering politics, purely to improve his public image. Beom-seok explains that he has never felt loved by his family, and that being a son feels more like a duty than a relationship. As they talk, Beom-seok opens up about being bullied by his previous classmates. He shares that they used to hit him constantly, leaving him traumatized. Hearing this, Soo-ho suggests that Beom-seok confront his bullies directly. In the next hour, the three friends head to the karaoke bar where the bullies usually gather. They interrupt the group, and with Soo-ho's intimidating presence, Beom-seok demands an apology from their leader. Intimidated, the leader apologizes reluctantly. However, Beom-seok is not satisfied with just an apology. Fueled by anger, he grabs a microphone and prepares to hit the bully. Soo-ho steps in and stops him, reminding Beom-seok that they came for an apology, not revenge. This angers Beom-seok, who feels that Soo-ho is treating him like a subordinate rather than a friend. The argument intensifies as Beom-seok accuses Soo-ho of not respecting him. Seon intervenes, preventing the fight from escalating further. Frustrated, the group splits up, with each going their separate ways. On his way back home, Beom-seok encounters Tae and his group of friends. Coincidentally, the bullies from Beom-seok's old school also show up at the same time. Tae notices that the bullies are from an elite school and sees an opportunity to extort money from them. He drags them to a secluded spot, intending to rob them. Taking advantage of the situation, Beom-seok finally gets his revenge. He lashes out and hits his former bully repeatedly, venting all his built-up anger. Tae and his friends are impressed by Beom-seok's actions, seeing him in a new light for the first time. They invite him to join them for a night of partying. Although hesitant at first, Beom-seok agrees and ends up paying for all their drinks that night. Later, Tae and his group follow Beom-seok on Instagram. This act of inclusion prompts Beom-seok to unfollow Si-eun and An Soo-ho, symbolizing his decision to distance himself from his old friends. For the first time in his life, Beom-seok feels respected and valued by his peers. In that moment, he decides to start fresh and build a new life with Tae and his friends. The next morning, Beom-seok arrives at school late, visibly hungover from the previous night. When Si-eun confronts him about his behavior, Beom-seok ignores him and heads straight to his new group of friends. Tae and the others thank Beom-seok for paying for their hotel rooms and drinks, though Beom-seok does not even remember doing so. This unintentional generosity makes him seem even cooler in their eyes. Seon overhears the conversation and becomes concerned about Beom-seok's choices. Later, he pulls Beom-seok aside to talk. Seon asks why he is behaving so differently, but Beom-seok expresses his frustrations. He reveals that he has always felt disrespected by An Soo-ho and says he no longer wants to associate with either of them. Beom-seok leaves the conversation, firmly distancing himself from his former friends. Over the following days, Beom-seok grows even closer to Tae and his group. He goes so far as to change his seat in class to be with them. One night, Tae and his group take Beom-seok to a club where they run into Yongbin, the trio's former enemy. Yongbin is surprisingly open to hanging out with Beom-seok now that they share a common resentment towards Seon and An Soo-ho. After learning about Beom-seok's father's influential reputation, Yongbin and his new group warmly welcome him. Beom-seok feels important and valued, unaware that they are only using him for his money and connections. Elsewhere, Si-eun and An Soo-ho meet to discuss their concerns about Beom-seok. An Soo-ho believes that Beom-seok has always sought validation from others and is now trying to gain popularity with Tae's group, just as he did when he was part of their trio. However, Si-eun feels differently and remains worried about Beom-seok's well-being. The next day at school, tensions rise when Tae and his friends cut the lunch line, drawing An Soo-ho's attention. An Soo-ho confronts them and forces them to stand in line like everyone else. While Tae and the others begrudgingly comply, Beom-seok refuses and challenges An Soo-ho. This leads to a brief altercation where An Soo-ho shoves Beom-seok into a table, humiliating him in front of everyone. Beom-seok walks away, seething with anger. Later, in a fit of rage, Beom-seok seeks out Yongbin and his new associate Wee-yong, an MMA fighter. Beom-seok hires Wee-yong to attack An Soo-ho, using his father's money to pay for the job. Wee-yong is eager for the opportunity, as he has a personal grudge against An Soo-ho, having lost to him in a match in the past. That evening, Tae and his friends tamper with the tires on An Soo-ho's scooter to ensure he has an accident. They hope this will weaken him and give Wee-yong an advantage in their upcoming fight. Their plan works, and An Soo-ho crashes, injuring his leg. The next day, Beom-seok notices An Soo-ho limping and feels a sense of satisfaction. In class, their eyes meet, and An Soo-ho gives Beom-seok a pointed look, silently conveying his suspicion that Beom-seok had something to do with the tampered scooter. A few days later, it is An Soo-ho's birthday. Si-yeon and Young-yi plan a small surprise to celebrate with him, hoping to make the day special. However, this is also the day that Wee-young is scheduled to confront An Soo-ho in a fight. While waiting for An Soo-ho to arrive, Young-yi receives a text from Beom-seok. He tells her that he has a birthday present for An Soo-ho and asks her to meet him outside. He insists that she not tell anyone about the text. Trusting Beom-seok, Young-yi agrees and goes to meet him. As they talk, Young-yi slowly begins to sense that something is off. Her suspicions are confirmed when she notices Yong-bin and his gang lurking nearby. She realizes too late that she has been set up. Meanwhile, at An Soo-ho's house, Si-yoon and Soo-ho wait for Young-yi to return. While waiting, Si-yoon notices a text from Beom-seok on Soo-ho's phone. Curiosity gets the better of him, and he opens the message, only to discover that Beom-seok has taken Young-yi hostage. Alarmed, Si-yeon quickly sends a reply, pretending to be Soo-ho, and then turns the phone off to prevent Beom-seok from discovering that Soo-ho is unaware of the situation. Determined to handle the situation himself and protect Soo-ho, Si-yeon makes an excuse to leave the house. He follows the clues and finds his way to the warehouse where Beom-seok, Yong-bin, and their gang are waiting. When Beom-seok sees Si-yeon, he is surprised and conflicted. He wants to cancel the plan, as he holds no ill will towards Si-yeon. However, Yong-bin is thrilled at the opportunity to exact revenge on Si-yeon for their past encounters. Si-yeon's first priority is to protect Young-yi. He drags her away from the warehouse and tells her to run to safety. However, in the process, he is caught by the gang. Si-yeon tries to fight back, but he is no match for an MMA fighter like Wee-young. Overpowered, Si-yeon is beaten severely by Yong-bin and his gang. Beom-seok, too ashamed to intervene, walks away from the scene, leaving Si-yeon to suffer. Half an hour later, the police arrive at the warehouse and find Si-yeon unconscious on the ground. When questioned about what happened, Si-yeon claims that it was an accident, deliberately protecting Beom-seok from facing any consequences. He also asks Young-yi to keep the incident a secret from An Soo-ho. The next morning, An Soo-ho wakes up and becomes worried when neither Si-yeon nor Young-yi return from the previous night. He grows even more anxious when Si-yeon doesn't answer his calls, sensing that something might have gone wrong. After school, An Soo-ho approaches Young-yi to ask what happened the previous night. However, she avoids the conversation, refusing to give him any answers. Frustrated but determined, Soo-ho turns to Tae and his group for information. Confronting them, he learns the truth about what happened at the warehouse. Enraged, he takes them to the school rooftop and beats them up for their role in hurting Si-yeon. Later that day, An Soo-ho visits Si-yeon to check on him, making sure he is okay. He pretends not to know anything about the warehouse incident, wanting to avoid making Si-yeon uncomfortable. Meanwhile, at Beom-seok's home, his life takes another dark turn. His father, furious over recent events, beats him and threatens to kill him. He informs Beom-seok that he will be sent to the Philippines to attend a foreign school, where he can no longer cause trouble. This time, however, Beom-seok fights back. For the first time, he stands up to his father and runs away, fleeing in a taxi. The next day, An Soo-ho begins looking for Beom-seok to confront him. He finds Yong-bin and demands to know Beom-seok's whereabouts, but Yong-bin reveals that Beom-seok has been missing since the night at the warehouse. Just as Soo-ho considers his next move, he receives a call from Beom-seok, who asks him to come to the gym. When Soo-ho arrives at the gym, he finds Beom-seok surrounded by his new group of friends. It becomes clear that Beom-seok has not let go of his grudge and has gathered everyone to witness An Soo-ho's defeat. Beom-seok's desire for revenge drives him to challenge Soo-ho again, but this time with the intent of seeing him beaten by Wee-young. To Beom-seok's surprise, An Soo-ho starts by apologizing. Soo-ho acknowledges that their rivalry has gone too far and expresses a desire to mend their friendship. However, even this heartfelt apology fails to sway Beom-seok, who remains stubborn in his resolve. With no other choice, An Soo-ho agrees to the challenge and prepares for a one-on-one fight with Wee-young. The match begins, and Wee-young immediately targets Soo-ho's injured leg. This works as an advantage for him for the first half of the game, but An Soo-ho soon bounces back. The gangsters, excited by the spectacle, begin recording the fight with plans to upload it online later. However, An Soo-ho's resilience shines through as he begins to turn the tide of the match, regaining control and landing solid blows on Wee-young. Just as Soo-ho takes over, someone from the crowd intervenes by pulling his leg, causing him to lose focus. This distraction allows Wee-young to gain the upper hand again. and he knocks An Soo-ho to the ground. With Soo-ho lying defenseless, Beom-seok enters the ring and begins kicking his limp body, venting all his anger and frustration. Encouraged by his actions, the others join in, mercilessly stomping and beating Soo-ho for what seems like hours. The beating only stops when Beom-seok's assistant arrives and orders them to stop. When the group checks on An Soo-ho, they realize with horror that he has no pulse. Panicked, they flee the scene, dragging a stunned Beom-seok away with them. The assistant takes control of the situation. He instructs 2 of the gang members to stage the scene to make it look like An Soo-ho collapsed while working out, framing the incident as an unfortunate accident. An ambulance is called, and Soo-ho is taken away. The next day at school, Seon remains unaware of what happened to An Soo-ho. His routine is interrupted when he receives a call from Young Yi, urgently asking him to come to the hospital. Seon rushes there, only to learn the devastating truth. An Soo-ho is not dead but is in a coma. At the hospital, Soo-ho's grandmother is forced to sign confidentiality papers to prevent any further investigation into the incident. Seeing his close friend in such a critical condition, Si-eun is overcome with grief and breaks down in tears. The following day, Si-eun's sorrow turns into anger. Believing Young-bin is responsible for what happened, he tracks him down and mercilessly beats him up, seeking vengeance for An Soo-ho. Si-eun is shown the video of the fight, which clearly reveals Beom-seok and Wi-yong as the ones responsible for what happened to An Soo-ho. Consumed with rage, Si-eun decides to confront Wi-yong. He tracks down Wi-yong and attacks him with a rod. However, being a professional fighter, Wi-yong easily blocks the initial strike. What begins as a one-sided confrontation quickly turns into an intense fight. Si-eun, determined to avenge his friend, uses the techniques that An Soo-ho had taught him. The fight is grueling, with both landing heavy blows. Wi-yong's professional skills give him an edge, but Si-eun's determination and clever use of strategy gradually turn the tide. In the end, Si-eun gains the upper hand and finishes the fight by striking Wi-yong's leg with a dumbbell, incapacitating him. Victorious, Si-eun walks away without looking back. On the same day, Beom-seok's father visits the school. The principal welcomes him into her office, and they wait there until the exams conclude, ensuring that Beom-seok does not get into further trouble. While waiting, Beom-seok's father subtly inquires about the student who was injured, attempting to gauge if the incident might affect his family's reputation. The principal, unaware of the true events, assures him that the student passed out while exercising. Relieved to hear this explanation, Beom-seok's father feels reassured. Meanwhile, Si-eun, still enraged and covered in blood from his earlier fight with Wi-yong, storms into the classroom. Without hesitation, he grabs a fire extinguisher and strikes Tai. Chaos erupts as he beats up Tae's entire gang, leaving them sprawled across the room. Finally, Si-eun approaches Beom-seok, his anger and pain evident in his every move. He raises his fist, ready to strike Beom-seok for all the harm he has caused. But in that moment, despite everything, Si-eun hesitates. He still sees Beom-seok as a friend, no matter how much he has been betrayed. Unable to hurt him, Si-eun's frustration and helplessness overcome him. Tears stream down his face as he punches a window instead, shattering the glass. The entire school, including Beom-seok's father and the principal, witnesses the dramatic scene unfold in stunned silence. Beom-seok's father views the video of his son participating in the brutal attack on An Soo-ho. Seeing the truth, he chooses not to press charges against Si-eun, recognizing that his own son is responsible for the chain of events. An Soo-ho remains in a coma but is not alone. His friends and grandmother visit him daily, staying by his side and hoping for his recovery. Si-eun, however, is forced to transfer schools due to his actions. On his first day at the new school, a bully approaches him, trying to pick a fight. Si-eun says nothing, but simply stares at the bully with a pen in his hand. And that is the end for today. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with more thrilling content. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Don't forget to like this video to show your support and help us create more great content. See you next time.